the crayon that drew dreams. Once upon a time, there was a boy named Max who loved to draw. He'd draw anything he could think of, monsters and robots and spaceships and mazes, but his favorite thing to draw was dreams. Every night before bed, Max would take out his special box of crayons, and he would draw a picture of whatever he wanted to dream about that night. And then amazingly, his drawings would come to life, and he would go off on an adventure in dreamland. One day, while looking at his crayons, Max noticed that one of them was glowing. "What?" he asked. The crayon whispered, "Draw with me." So Max took the crayon and closed his eyes and thought of something amazing to draw. When he opened his eyes, he had drawn a rocket ship blasting off into space. "Wow," he breathed. Then the crayon said, "Hop aboard, Max." And then in a flash of light, Max was flying through space in his very own rocket ship. As he zoomed past planets, stars, and shooting stars, Max saw all sorts of amazing things like black holes and nebulae and even a friendly alien or two. After a while, Max began to get a little bit scared. Everything was so big and so dark and so unknown. But then he remembered the crayon had said to hop aboard. So he closed his eyes again, and when he opened them, he was back in his room. Max sighed happily. What an amazing dream that was. But then the crayon said, "Let's have another adventure." And Max knew exactly what to draw. He drew a huge green dragon with emerald green scales and magnificent wings. As soon as he finished drawing the dragon, it roared, and then it spoke, "Hop aboard, Max." In a flash of light, they were soaring through the sky on the dragon's back. Max had never flown before, but somehow he knew how to steer the dragon as it swooped and dived through the clouds. They flew over rainbows and waterfalls and magical forests. At one point, the dragon dove straight toward the sun, and Max felt so brave, so free, so happy. But after a while, the sun began to set, and Max started to feel sad. He missed his warm bed and his soft blanket and his teddy bear. And then the dragon landed softly on his roof and nudged him gently. "It's time to go home, Max," it said. And in a flash of light, Max was back in his room. He yawned and stretched and smiled. What an amazing dream that was. Each night, Max would draw a new picture, and each night his drawing would come to life and take him on an exciting adventure. He explored deep jungles filled with monkeys and parrots and tigers, and he sailed the high seas on a pirate ship with a crew of wacky pirates. Once he even went under the sea, where he rode a giant sea turtle and played with dolphins, and swam through coral reefs, more beautiful than anything he could have imagined. And every morning when Max woke up, he would look around his room to see if any of the magic from his dreamland had stayed behind. Sometimes he found a feather or a leaf or a shell, and once he even found a tiny, sparkling treasure chest just like the one in his dream. Max kept all of these treasures in a box on top of his desk, and every night before bed, he would open the box and look at them, remembering all of his adventures in dreamland. But sadly, Max noticed that his crayon was starting to fade a little. "Oh no," he said. "Will I still be able to draw dreams?" The crayon whispered, "Of course, Max. You can always draw dreams." Well, I was 6 then, so that night before bed, Max took out his crayon and closed his eyes and thought of the most amazing dream he could imagine. When he opened his eyes, he had drawn a gigantic castle made of pure gold with towers that touched the clouds and a drawbridge that led to a moat filled with sparkling jewels. He drew a knight in shining armor and a princess with flowing golden hair, and a dragon with emerald green scales and magnificent wings, just like the one from his very first dream. Max colored the picture with all of the colors of the rainbow. And then he added lots of magical details like stars and rainbows and unicorns. As he drew, the crayon grew a little bit brighter, Wow, Max whispered. Then the princess from his drawing waved to him and said, "Come on, Max. It's time to go on an adventure." So Max closed his eyes and hopped into his drawing. When he opened them, he was in dreamland. The knight knelt down in front of him and said, "Are you ready to save the princess, young hero?" Max gasped. All of a sudden, a horrible monster appeared. It was big and scary and ugly. Its teeth were sharp and its claws were long and its eyes were red and mean. "Ha!" the monster boomed. "I've been waiting for you, Max." Then Max remembered the magical sword he had drawn, and when he pulled it from its scabbard, the blade shone with a brilliant light. "Stop right there, monster!" he cried. And then Max fought the monster with all of his might. They battled back and forth, until finally, with one mighty swing, Max knocked the monster's helmet off. And when he did, he saw that it wasn't a monster at all. It was the Crayon monster. "You knew me all along, didn't you?" the Crayon monster asked. "I was trying to protect my magic, but you defeated me anyway. Now you must destroy the crayons." "What?" Max exclaimed. "Why?" the Crayon monster sighed. "Because someone stole my magic and turned me evil. If you want to restore my magic, you must color me with the 7 colors of the rainbow." So Max took out his crayons and colored the Crayon monster with all of his might. As he colored the monster, it became less scary and more crayon-like. And then finally, with the last stroke of his crayon, Max colored the Crayon monster's horn, and it became a regular crayon again. "Thanks, Max," the Crayon monster said. "Now I can go back to being a regular crayon, and you can keep my magic." So then the Crayon monster gave Max a magical box filled with crayons that could draw anything Max could imagine. And then the Crayon monster went back to being a regular crayon. And Max was left with all of these magical crayons. "Wow," he breathed. "I can draw anything I want, anything at all." For the next few weeks, Max had the best dreams ever. He drew pictures of roller coasters and race cars and even a robot that could talk. But sadly, Max noticed that his magical crayons were starting to fade a little. "Oh no," he said. "Will I still be able to draw dreams?" Then Max had an idea. He knew that his crayons were losing their magic because he had used them so much. So he decided to make each crayon last as long as possible. From that day on, Max only drew 1 picture every night, just 1 dream. And that way, his crayons lasted forever, and Max lived happily ever after, drawing 1 dream every night.